Welcome to Bright by Your Side with Jen, upleveling in this age of anxiety. I'm Jen Dyer, your host, and today we are talking about not acting out of fear, even when the world is really scary. Now, before my last podcast, I did finding comfort in the chaos, and I was inspired to do that because of all of the federal layoffs that took place, the news people were getting from work over these tariffs and how it was going to impact their jobs potentially. In fact, my neighbors here were told that they're not going to get their increases because of the tariffs, things like that. But really, it was all the people who were suddenly found themselves unemployed. But what happened, and I'm so humbled by this, I had just as many listeners from Ukraine as I had from the United States. And I'm just so humbled that in their situation, they would take the time to listen to me talk. And I want to thank them. And I want to thank all of you. I'm always so grateful that you're here with me and listening to me talk. But my goodness, that was just a humbling experience to see that I have listeners in the Ukraine. So this one, acting from fear, because we actually know people who, my husband has a friend in Ukraine. He makes scale models. He makes kits to where you can adapt the kit that you buy at the store. You can adapt it, make it something extra cool. And he lives in Ukraine, and he is not fit to serve physically. So he just decided that he is going to continue doing his art, because it's an art. He sculpts. He's going to continue doing his art. And of course, that's probably on top of his regular daily job. This is probably his passion. And, keep the people around the world that buy his product and look forward to it and keep them happy and keep his soul happy. And again, pursuing his passion in this time of he has zero control over what's going on in his country, right? And we all know that feeling right now. We have zero control over what's going on right now. And I just wanted to applaud the people of Ukraine who are listening, who are dealing with this time of war. And we can get into that a little more. On the other side of the flip side of that is that here we have people who are acting out of fear, as opposed to those who are trying to live their lives and not let fear get to them in Ukraine. Here we have these Republican politicians who, with law degrees, who know the Constitution and know that what's happening is unconstitutional or is in the worst interest in the United States. And they're not speaking up because they are afraid. They're afraid of retribution from the administration. And the administration outright says, well, we'll primary you if you do this. If you don't follow along, you will be primaried, which means they will pump a ton of money into their opponent who will do whatever Trump wants and make sure that they are no longer elected at the next election when they run. They will get primaried is the term that they use. So, yes, we have a president that seeks retribution and punishes those who oppose him or oppose his views. And again, any of you from other countries know that that is the sign of a dictator. That is the sign of somebody who punishes. The other thing is to have the DOJ, the Department of Justice, investigate them and start digging through all their stuff to find something, anything to make that where they might have to get an attorney and spend money on that. And maybe, they'll post awful things about him and then people will start giving them death threats. That's happening here, right? So because people have wives, they have houses, they have children in school, they're not speaking out because they don't want their family to be affected. And I said wives, that's very sexist because we have plenty of women as well, but they don't want their families affected by speaking out against the administration. So that's why this topic today is so important to me, because we are seeing both sides, especially in our country. There are so many people who are afraid to speak up. And I'm going to tell you, I kept politics out of my content because I didn't want to offend people. I'm really about reducing anxiety. And actually now I am letting on as I'm trying to be more of my authentic self, actually how important this collective consciousness and tapping into who we truly are as souls and how that is what keeps you on the rails. Listening to your inner being, which is divine and magical and knows everything, knows what's right for you, knows what you truly want, knows why it's here on this planet. Tapping into that instead of listening to the chatter and chasing other people's expectations to keep them happy. And how important that is, again, to finding happiness and keeping you on the rails so you don't lose it in times such as this, when you lose your job, when you're at war. And we can all understand when we make decisions out of fear, we know we're not happy with them, especially if they don't align with you. If they align with you, that's fine. But mostly if they don't align with you and you're doing it, because, well, I had to protect my family. I couldn't speak out. I couldn't be honest. I had to vote this way. I couldn't be honest. Yes, I voted for someone who I knew was going to destroy our government. But I was afraid I'd lose my job. Did you just hear all those excuses? You say, why did you make that decision? And they have a whole bunch of excuses as to why they acted in this way. So that's what acting out of fear is. And do you think that's really in your best interest? Is that in your interest of being happy? Is that going to make you happy, knowing that you have you're following a path that's outside, that's based in other people's expectations of you? I think we all know how detrimental that is to who we are over time when we're older. It's basically the source of the midlife crisis, where you do everything your parents want. Okay, you got the degree, you got the right job. Now you bought a house and you married that girl and you got kids, you got to give them grandkids. And now you're like, this is it. You're 45 and you're like, I hate my job, but I can't quit because I have this giant house payment, and I can't quit because I got to support my kids, and I can't, and they're trapped. And that's why we see suicide rates among middle-aged men increasing just as much as we're seeing them among teenagers. It's the classic midlife crisis. So making decisions out of fear, you will only regret. And it narrows your thinking. All you're thinking about is what these other people want from you. And then that can change depending on who's in power, who's over you when you're making decisions. Because the people who have power over you will change. And then you made these decisions, you based your entire life on these external things that suddenly, you're out of fashion, right? Suddenly you have a job that no one wants, and you didn't, you devoted all this time and effort into that, and you don't like it, or it disappeared. So, but if you're doing what you enjoy, you enjoyed it. That was a wonderful time in your life. And you can continue doing that, finding a way to do that moving forward. You know what you want. And maybe you're ready for a change, and do something else that you enjoy. But it's very different when you devote your life to something you don't want, but because other people made you or convinced you to. And again, nobody made you. You have given away your power. And that's the thing about acting out of fear, is you've given away your power. So you have to interrupt those fear loops and back out when you're making these decisions and everyone's saying, hey, you should do this, you should do that. If you don't, this will happen, this could happen, that could happen. All these worries. You have to interrupt those fear loops. So of course, you need to pay attention to what you're feeling. And if you are in a moment of anxiety, if every time you think about it, you get really anxious, you got to calm that down so you can think clearly, because you do not think clearly. There's a reason why when you are in a panic, all you can think of is, getting out of the burning house. You're not thinking about, deeper thoughts about things and, what's the ramifications, or you're not thinking about what you even had for lunch today. You don't even care. Maybe you didn't even have pants on, right? You're just getting out of the house. You didn't even notice you're not wearing pants. You're not even paying attention. You are focused on this one thing, and that's it. And everything else goes away, and you're not being rational, right? Obviously, if you're running out of a house, that's okay because your number one priority is getting out of the house. But if you're in that panic mode and you're making decisions, you're not remembering, you're going to realize, shoot, I didn't even think about that. And now I'm stuck. And you have to find the difference between real danger and perceived danger. Now, of course, that's such a difference between here, our politicians, and people in Ukraine who are being shelled and bombed, right? And again, so I was really trying to find a solution that would work for everyone in this situation. What to do when you are in an environment that is very fear-inducing, as like you're a politician in our political environment, you are in a war-torn country, or you're in a place that may be a real economic upturn or downturn. Upheaval was the word I meant to say. So grounding techniques, obviously, imagine this is what we're going to do. We're going to think about this. Just slow down. Imagine that light coming from above, coming down through the top of your head, down through your feet, down to the center of the earth. Imagine that down. And in the middle of the center of the earth is a beautiful light. And you imagine that coming right back up and shooting back out the top of your head. That's how you ground yourself. Imagine that light. Take some breaths, deep breaths. Exhale more slowly than you're inhaling. That resets your vagus nerve. And then you can start thinking about, what is it that I can do at this time? What do I need to do? What do I want to do? I'm in a tough situation. And one of the things that I actually I recommend, back out and imagine being a completely other person, and they are writing a book about you. They are writing about you and your story. And you're getting to this chapter in your life. So it's a book about you. You're the hero, right? You're the hero. So what would the hero do? What would you want the hero to do in this situation? And, for people in Ukraine, I mean, if what you're doing, all you're doing is going out and fetching water for all of the people, older people in the building that couldn't move, and that's what you're doing, you are a hero. You might feel like you're not, a soldier or, really fighting for the country, but you are a hero. Just something so small, something that you're proud of. Something, if somebody read that book, they'd be like, what a hero. That guy's a hero. But if you're one of these politicians, think about that, backing out and looking at yourself. You have a law degree. You know the things that you're voting for are not in the best interest of the country, but you're afraid to speak out. You're complicit in some things that are not in the best interest of our country. And you know this. And you're reading this book and you see the person saying, well, they did this or that because they were afraid. They were afraid this might happen. They were worried this might happen. They were worried that might happen. They were worried. They didn't know what they would do. They were worried. So based in fear. Is that the hero? Is that the hero? Would you root for that person who was that's the side character. The one who's like cowering in the corner. That's the side character. You want to be the hero of your own story. You want to be proud to have someone read that book about you. Sadly, as when you get to a certain age, you start going to a lot of funerals, all your aunts and uncles and things, grandparents and things. And I'll tell you, it was a real eye opener to see which of my, aunts and uncles had a massive turnout. My Uncle Henry, can I tell you, this guy, his funeral, the church was packed. And I had never seen more men in their 20s bawling their eyes out because he had passed away. And he had passed away of natural causes. He'd been sick for a really long time. But, he was the grandfather. He retired in his 50s and he helped raise all the kids. And it was just so shocking. And some of these boys weren't even his grandchildren. They were the spouses of his grandchildren. The boyfriends and spouses. And the front of the church was full of these guys in their 20s and early 30s, maybe even bawling their eyes out. And I thought, man, who knew he made that kind of impact? And he was a retired guy, and you would think, oh, he did his time working at his job and he's done and that was it and that's all he did. But man, I'll tell you, his funeral spoke volumes. His book was volumes, full of hero moments. I don't even know. I could just tell by everyone. It was just amazing. And other members of my family, not so much. So, it really opens your eyes to like, you really want to live your life to be the hero of your own book. And the hero of your own book, the hero of a book is never full of excuses for why it didn't do the heroic thing. The book would be the most boring book. They just did what everyone expected and sat in the corner and were sad and were frustrated. Be the hero of your own book. What would you want to see? And as you're asking yourself this question, here's another inner being tip. Take, again, deep breaths. Put your intention in your heart. Imagine floating down to your heart, or you can put your hand on your heart and imagine seeing it light up. Put your intention in your heart and ask yourself, what do I want to do? What should I do? What aligns with who I am? I do want to share something that I've learned. I got this from one of Paul Selig's book. He's actually a channel, and he channels the council, which is otherworldly beings from the collective consciousness. And you can think I'm crazy or not, but I'm telling you, these are the best life books, life coaches in the entire world. It's so beautiful. And there's nothing they can say that will hurt you, because it's all about doing what you want, being clear on who you are. So their advice to us to help us grow and expand and become aligned with who we truly are: in the morning, when you wake up, say to yourself 3 times, I know who I am, and that is enough. I know who I am, and that is enough. I know who I am, and that is enough. And then before you go to bed, say 3 times, I know who I am, and that is enough. And I suggest putting your intention in your heart when you say that. I know who I am, and that is enough. I know who I am, and that is enough. And that last part about, and that is enough, that is speaking to how the people pleasers in us, the outside expectations that we feel like we need to do to make mom and dad and grandma and whoever happy, or to please your high school graduates you're going to see at the next reunion, or whatever the case is, the people at work, whatever it is. That's what that's speaking to. I know who I am, and that is enough. I am the hero of my own book. And I act as a hero in my own book. I'm not the sidekick, the whiny sidekick. I'm not the one hiding in the corner, complaining. I'm not doing and saying things that don't align with my truth just to get me popular. And I know we all struggled with this kind of thing when we were kids and teenagers, as we were trying to navigate social life. You say things you feel bad about later that you didn't really mean, just because you wanted to be with this particular crowd or be friends with that particular person at that moment, or everyone was looking at you, so you just agreed, or you didn't speak up when they were bullying someone because you don't want to risk, whatever, being laughed at or made fun of. But we're older now, and it's time. And I'm going to tell you, again, I keep saying this, but we are evolving right now. We are evolving. Our intuition is heating up, and I know you feel this. I know you get gut feelings, and they're right. I know you ask questions like, yeah, I wonder what happened to that guy. And all of a sudden, like, You run into him at the store and he tells you everything he's been doing for the last 3 years voluntarily. This is one of those things that happens to me all the time. I wonder who bought that house on the corner. This is a real story. So there was a house that we were looking at when we were searching for our house to buy. And there was this crazy house that we'd actually considered buying. And we'd seen it like 3 or 4 times, really thinking about buying it. It was a mess. It needed so much work because that's all we could afford at the time. and it was a crazy house. So we just wondered, God, did they tear down that backside of that whole house? What happened? I wonder who that, and we would say, I wonder who bought that house up there on such and such street. And we'd laugh. And, occasionally we'd drive by to see if they'd done any work. And, not long after we drove by it and were wondering about it, we were on a hike, like an hour hike up the mountain and looking out at the overlook. And up comes this little dog and this guy, and it's just us up there looking out at the overlook. And we just started to chat because the dog was so cute. And he was the guy who bought the house. And we ended up having that conversation, which is not normally where you go. What house did you buy? Is not normally a conversation that you have, but that was just crazy that our question was answered within a few weeks. Like that was the hard one they had to arrange. Whoever, the collective consciousness, the universe, had to arrange that hookup. But it did. We got our questions answered, and now that was years ago. Now my questions are getting answered so fast, and I know they are for you too. I know it's not just me. I know. Here's another one. Here's another example where we had I don't know if I may have told you that we had a dad at our daughter's school who was. Who I did not know was an actor. And the drama teacher who was in movies told us that he was an actor. And I trust this guy. This guy is a real actor. So I trust him when he says this dad is an actor from our school. And I had no idea. I thought he did construction. I had no idea. Well, I couldn't find him on IMDb. I Googled him. I Googled all different versions of his name. And we just kind of gave up. Like, what a bummer. We can't figure out. I can't believe it's not true. And so we were trying to figure it out. I swear to God, not long after I'm flipping through and I see, I'm flipping through a channel and I see the movie Eagle Eye. And I was like, oh, I saw a trailer for that. And boom, there he is, the dad talking to Billy Bob Thornton. He's playing like the head of the SWAT team. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm trying to pause it and get my family in there because I found it. I found proof. But it was magical. Like there was no reason for me to be on that movie. I didn't even really care to watch. I didn't have time to watch a whole movie. I was just kind of flipping through and my questions get answered, and I know yours do too. Or you'll think of a song and you'll walk into the grocery store and they're playing it, right? These are the things the magic that's heating up right now. And it's part of our evolution. Because I'm telling you, if you have to compete with AI that knows everything all at once, we need to be able to tap in to something extra too. And that's happening. But I want you to use that to align with who you are and what you want, because this is your happiness. This is your happiness. And taking action out of fear is not going to make you happy. It's going to make you make excuses for the rest of your life. Well, I had no choice. I had to because this and that. You do have a choice. You do. Are you the hero of your book? You do have a choice. You're giving your power away to this thing, this future that you're not sure will turn out that way. You're not sure. It's just made up in your head. Again, back to catastrophizing your future, catastrophizing things that don't exist yet. You have to focus in the now. Who am I? And what do I want? And what kind of person do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Maybe I'm not that person right now. Maybe I'm the one who just follows everybody and acts out of fear, and that's fine. That's because we're human, and that's what the human does. Our little humans are nothing but fear. That's called survival. And so, I don't judge anybody to be in the survival mode, especially in times of stress. But you have to be able to back out of it because you can. You are bigger than that. You are bigger and more powerful. And you're not here on this planet to do other people's biddings. You're not. You are here on this planet to serve a bigger purpose. And the thing that eats people away when they are on their deathbed is, I wish I had lived my life the way I wanted to. That's the number one thing. The biggest regret. I wish I had lived my life, not the life my mom wanted or my dad. I wish I had done what I really was talented at and not just gone after the CPA degree, because I'm a really good artist and I would have loved to do that. So, this is an investment in your future happiness, the choices you make now. You are in the now, and you are affecting the future with every choice you make. And are you going to be full of excuses at the end and have like disclaimers as to why you did these things in your book? Your book's going to be a bunch of disclaimers. Well, you have to understand. Well, you have to understand this happened. Well, you have to understand I was worried about that. You have to understand. When you tell your story and it starts with you have to understand, you know, that's, you get that a couple of them are okay, but after a while you're like, God, really? And again, that's back to being a victim. Choices out of fear, giving your power away, you're a victim. And again, I am humbled by people who are in a war-torn region and are listening to this and are having to make choices out of fear all the time. But I know I just saw a video of a bunch of Ukrainian young people at a concert, and they could have stayed home and been afraid that a bomb could have landed on that. But they went out and because who knows? They don't know who's going to get hit. They went out and they had a few hours of enjoyment. And I was so happy to see that they were able to even do that. I'm just so grateful for that. They were so happy and having so much fun. So, I would like to take a little bit of, learning from the Ukrainians who have been so proud and so strong and are truly trying to live their lives and are truly taking care of each other and are truly stepping up. And we need that here in the United States. We need people to step up. We need people to speak their conscience and not just be populists. Really dig into who they are. Is this really how you feel? Is this really what you believe in? Again, you can think, if you're a Christian, Jesus said to treat others like you would treat yourself. Is what you're saying online on Facebook really, are you really the Christian that you say you are? Is that really what Jesus would do? I do not go to church. I was raised Catholic. Jesus was an amazing guy, but there were so many ascended masters who were amazing guys that we need to learn from. But all of their message was the same. Their messages were the same. Do unto others as you would do unto you, and that we are all one. Whatever you do unto the other is doing it to yourself, because we are all connected. And we are all connected in source. So tap into that, because source wants to help you so bad. Source wants to help you. They want to help guide you because they want you. You're here for a reason and they want to help you be on this path. And again, they cannot guide a parked car and they cannot guide you if you just simply refuse to follow what you feel and choose out of fear. So that's what I have for you today. Again, grounding the light from above down through your feet, down through your head, all the way down through your feet, down to the center of the earth, back up in the center of the earth, picking up that light from there and shooting it back up out through your body. Deep breathing, long exhales, twice as long as your inhales. You know what? It's a good one. I use this one all the time. And here's I have an Oura ring that tells me what my stress is like. So I measured this one. I love science. I'm kind of taking the science out of this, but I love science because science is actually starting to get into with the quantum physics. It's kind of they've already acknowledged that there is this energetic field that they can't explain. And there's so many things they can't explain. We can talk about that. That's another one. But here's one though for reducing anxiety. And I do this when I have an emergency I have to drive to. The loud, heavy sigh. Okay. And I was doing this in my car. I had to go somewhere. And I was doing this in my car. Ready? It looks and sounds like this. Ah. Ah. So what that is a variation of the om. So if you're alone, you might want to do some ohms because the ohms end in a hum that vibrates your whole body. And if you pay attention to that, I strongly urge you, your whole body starts to resonate and tingle. It really is amazing. But anyway, I was doing that and I could see my stress being way up here and then dropping down here while I was driving to this location because I was stressed out by going, as I'm driving my car. So that's a great one. That's a great one. You can kind of get away with that in public. Yeah, that's definitely, you get away with that better than the ohm, or you can hum. But it's basically the long exhale with vocalization and vibration. Okay, so that's based in science too. But you realize that they've been doing that for thousands of years. We just like pretend like it's dumb, and it's really not. It's really, really, really cool. So that's the other one for cooling it down. And then you really go into your heart, ask yourself, like, who am I? And who do I want to be? And is this in alignment with that? And am I acting out of fear? Or is this what I really believe in? And that is an investment in your happiness in the future. All right. So again, I just really, really want to thank you guys for being here with me today and for listening. And I really want to thank my my friends in Ukraine. And honestly, there were some in Russia too who listened to. And I'm so grateful for you too, because, I certainly will never blame somebody for the activity of their leader, their president, their administration. I certainly do not want to be judged or blamed by the activity of my president, ever. And so if you are in Russia and you're listening to this, I love and respect you too. And because you are oppressed. And of course, my Ukrainian listeners, gosh, I just love you guys so much. I'm so humbled by you guys being here. And everybody else from all over the world who's listening. My name is Jen and I'm here to help. And I wish you the best in love. This is Bright by your side. Thank you.